Sorry for the delay, folks. Had to take a work-related call. So let's pick up where we left off on that match with Corbin and Elias. Once again, they go back to the floor, and use of the steel post is employed by Corbin. Again, the match is kind of really dragging, kind of slow, and I don't think it would have mattered if there was a room full of people there or if there were two people there. I think the impact of the match would have been the same. Series of elbows again by Elias, and then backing Corbin into the corner. Elias misses a top rope maneuver and a near fall off the deep six. Corbin catches Elias with a shot to the throat, uses the ropes for leverage, and Elias eventually rolls him up for the win, and we get no reaction from the non-existent fans. The third match of the evening, again, back to the ladies. Got to give Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler credit in that they worked super hard. I don't quite understand why there wasn't more fanfare with Becky coming in with the monster truck, but it is what it is. She comes in with the semi-attached trailer, and they do the old boxing introduction for the match. They trade hard strikes early in the match, and it definitely has a more mixed martial arts type feel. Lynch then breaks free, and they roll around the ringside area for a while. A missile drop kick used by the champion to gain things going back in her direction for a little bit. Series of strikes again by the champion, and Baszler comes back with a series of her own. Hard knee to the head of Lynch, and then Lynch tries for the disarmer several times. Baszler reverses into a clutch, and Lynch rolls through it for the near fall. Again, this match is much more mat-based, much more technically sound, and it proves that whoever is working with the women cares more about them looking solid and having no air in their strikes and in their approach than a lot of the men. And I don't quite understand that, but it seems that the women are taken, to some degree anyway, a little more seriously as it relates to their striking and their matches looking believable, especially when you're looking at the top echelon. You're Sasha Banks, Bayley, Becky Lynch, Shayna Baszler. They all really seem to always have solid work behind them. So strikes on the apron, and then a Uranagi on the apron by Lynch. Baszler goes back to the armbar once again and tries to transition into the disarmer. A knee by Baszler for the near fall. Again, everything comes back to striking, and it's not the overdone striking, 10 strikes, boom, 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 boom. It's always one strike near fall, two strikes near fall, combinations that look legitimate, and I love this match for that reason. Use of the announce desk, and then Baszler locks in her clutch. Lynch rolls through in the equivalent of the Bret Hart Roddy Piper finish from WrestleMania 8 for the Intercontinental Championship, and gets a roll-up win. I'm actually very surprised that Lynch holds on to the championship here, but I think there's more to be gotten from Baszler winning in front of people, and so maybe they're holding it off for that reason. We then go to Zayn and Daniel Bryan for the Intercontinental Championship. Gronkowski and Raleigh out, and basically Zayn stalled on the outside of the ring for a good bit. Bryan gives chase, Cesaro steps in the way, and Zayn tries to control the momentum again. The match is so much less than both guys are capable of, but its placement on the card gives way to it being a breather match, which I think is better for both guys. Zayn and Bryan both having, from my understanding, and I could be incorrect, someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but both gentlemen seem to have nagging injuries throughout time, so maybe they chose to go with this style of match in accordance with the placement on the card. So Zayn jumps in the ring. Bryan finally chases him around ringside, and this time Nakamura gets in the way. Cesaro and Nakamura blocked Bryan off once again, and Zayn tries to leave, but Gulak steps in the way there. Bryan tells Gulak to let Zayn go. I like the pairing of Gulak and Bryan. It's possible that when Bryan retires from full-time competition, which from reports I've seen, maybe sooner rather than later, within the next year and a half or so, maybe he can step into an advisor role akin to what Paul Heyman does. I think that would be a good use of his time and energy, especially with a guy like Gulak. So they brawl up the ramp. Bryan finally gets Zayn into the ring, blocks him with strikes and kicks, follows up with a suicide dive. I don't understand the concept of diving. I said this in the AEW review the other day, but I don't understand the concept of diving for the sake of just a camera at home. You can take one less bump on your bump card and not do a move that could potentially be dangerous. Anyway, yes kicks on a unhappy Sami Zayn. Missile drop kick followed up, and then a hard series of strikes again by Bryan. Clothesline out of nowhere by Zayn gets things going back under his direction, and Zayn again gets the yes kicks. Nakamura and Cesaro are recovered at ringside and come in. Attacks Gulak comes in at ringside too, and he manages to use a suicide dive of his own to neutralize the outside interference. Bryan off the top, but gets caught with a haluva kick, and Sami Zayn retains the Intercontinental title. Wasn't expecting that, but at the same time, if Bryan is winding down the career, winning the championship really means nothing at this point. So then you have your ladder match for the tag team championships of SmackDown. A representative of each team is part of the match. So we've got John Morrison, Kofi Kingston, and Jey Uso in a three-way for the ladder match. The winner of the match representing and holding on to the championships for their respective teams. Uso with a monkey flip on Kingston early, and Kingston lands on his feet, and then gave Morrison a monkey flip. He lands on his feet. Good athleticism and agility by all three men there. Morrison has a shorter ladder, and ultimately Morrison pushes Uso off the ladder first, and Uso crashes hard into the canvas. A bit of a bad landing, and seemed to come up with maybe a twisted knee, pulled hamstring, something there. Hopefully he's okay. Kingston and Uso climb to the top of the ladder, and Kingston pushes him down, but a cut off by Morrison. Then Morrison and Kingston trade strikes in the middle of the ring. Kingston springboards through the ladder, but Morrison and Uso catch him and tosses Kingston out of the ring. So a lot of high-impact action here. And then, let's see. From there, we've got Morrison using the ladder again in the corner. Use of a twisted senton. I believe John Morrison is almost 40, but you wouldn't know it by watching his speed and agility here. Climbs up the ladder, but by this point, Kingston has recovered and caught him with a springboard Rana. Off the ladder, impressive move by Kofi, and then Kofi hits a dive off the ladder and through to the floor. Uso runs the top of the barricade, but gets caught with the ladder, caught in the face and body with the ladder. Kingston then places Uso on the ladder, but Morrison climbs up to the top rope and cuts him off, climbs onto the opposite turnbuckle, and we see Morrison with probably the spot of the match with a bit of a tightrope level walk that leads to a Spanish fly in the ring. Uso follows up with a splash as the Spanish fly is between Morrison and Kofi Kingston. Uso tries to climb the ladder, but Kingston blocks him from doing so. They fought on the top of the ladder for a little bit. Kingston knocks Uso off and then hits a double foot stomp off the ladder onto Morrison. Again, the ladder comes into play, and Morrison leaps off the ladder, but a super kick is his result at the hands of Jey Uso. setting up a second ladder in the corner, but Morrison shoves Uso off that second ladder. Morrison climbs to the top and seemed to have everything under control, but Casey cuts him off. All three fought on top of the ladders, and then they pulled down the titles with Morrison falling from the ladder and crushing the titles, thus retaining them. I don't think it matters who wins this match. It's a good match and spectacle for what it was. At the same time, if it wasn't on the show, I don't think that anybody would have walked away from the event disappointed. We then go to Owens and Rollins. They go on the inside as we haven't seen that before. They're having to rely on brawling on the outside and use of gimmicks to get through this empty arena debacle. And this match is no different. Owens hits a clothesline and a senton on the outside and then tries a cannonball, but Rollins rolls out of the ring there. We see that Rollins goes into the barricade, and then Rollins hits a brutal-looking Falcon Arrow on the apron, follows up with a couple of suicide dives, and then Rollins attempts a third dive, but Owens catches him with a brutal Bobby Eaton-like right hand. And then we see a sling blade from Rollins back in the ring, attempts to double stomp, but Owens hits a DDT. Owens then with a super kick follows up with a cannonball in the corner, and then we've got a near fall. Rollins avoids a stunner, heads to the outside, win then a kick to the head on Owens, bounced off the ropes, and then we see a clothesline. Owens attempts a superplex, but a thumb to the eyes blocks that off. Owens grabs the mic and demands, because the referee has deemed there to be a disqualification in all this hullabaloo, and Owens says he doesn't want it that way, wanted to do a disqualification match. The match is thusly restarted, much to his delight, and Rollins fought Owens with a hard knee, and then they use a barricade again, rolling around on the outside of the ring. Owens nailed in the head, and Rollins grabs a chair and beats Owens down with the chair. And then Rollins clears off the announce table, but Owens eventually goes up and climbs on top of the WrestleMania sign, leaps off, and lands on Rollins back in the ring. The stunner leads to the victory for Kevin Owens. I think the Owens belly flopping off of the sign will get on some form of, highlight package for years to come. Hey, maybe they got some. Maybe they can airbrush some people into it looks like that's a good idea. Anyway, we go into a rundown after a Paul Heyman promo. Heyman said the only person that should be scared is not Taylor Braxton, but Drew McIntyre for tomorrow. And then the announcers run down tomorrow's card. We go to the semi-main event, Braun Strowman defeating Goldberg to win the Universal Championship. I really think this is a boneheaded idea. A couple of reasons. Number one, I think Strowman has cooled off substantially. I think the only people that care about Braun Strowman at this point are probably about 8-year-old boys and maybe 55-year-old lumberjacks who sustained brain damage. But other than that, I really don't see that anybody's really going to care one way or the other. Not that you want to leave the belt on Goldberg, but leaving it on him for one more month and then, 1 or 2 more months until there is a crowd for him to drop it to. I think with a guy like Goldberg, who is a Hall of Famer, I think you have to leverage your use of him wisely, and he should have dropped the belt. And I said, don't. You got to get me a fine now. But anyway, I think they should drop the belt in a scenario where there were people present. I think it has more value. And for a guy like Goldberg, when he's only got maybe 5 or less matches left, having him drop in front of people, I think, is imperative to getting somebody over at some sort of level. Anyway, Goldberg and Strowman stared out early. Strowman attempts power slam. Goldberg hits a spear. Powers up with a grand total of 4 spears. And then attempted jackhammer, butt stomach counters into a power slam. He then follows that up with a grand total of 3 more power slams, so a total of 4 for the win. So we've got 4 spears versus 4 power slams and a victorious Braun Strowman, who is now your Universal Champion. We then go to the reason that there is proof that people in Connecticut use illicit drugs, the Boneyard match between The Undertaker and AJ Styles. The match took place in a graveyard without commentary. I don't know about that. That's been done various times before. That's been done on WWE TV with the Hardys and the Wyatts a few years back. It was the Hardys. No, maybe this is New Day and the Wyatts. New Day and the Wyatts. I'm sorry. And then the Hardys did it in TNA. What's that Impact? I'm not a fan of it, but it is what it is. It takes place in the graveyard. The match went way too long. It's very similar to the Hardys stuff. It was a direct ripoff. I think it might even be a shot at we'll take your idea, we'll run with it on the biggest show of the year. We won't let you do it. We'll let the Undertaker do it because he's 30 years in and you decided to leave. I do believe those type of digs do happen. In any event, there are shots of various Tuesdays, Undertaker's music plays. He comes with a hearse, a couple of dudes, a casket, and AJ Styles is wearing jeans and t-shirt. Finally, Taker does show up. He shows up on a motorcycle. Taker with a cutoff when Styles tries to use every bit of weapon that he can find, including a large rock that is nearby. Undertaker calls him by his legit name and then smashes him into the casket a few dozen times, thus leaving our phenomenal AJ Styles probably with a concussion if this were real. Undertaker misses a shot, and Styles' hand goes through a window of the hearse. Styles fights back, and then Undertaker uses the windshield of the hearse as a weapon. Styles on top of the hearse, but Taker continues to beat him down. He warned him never to mention his wife again. If the wife wasn't going to appear, what was the point of that ending story arc? I don't quite understand. She could have appeared in a cameo and kicked AJ in the nuts for all of his bad talking, but that doesn't happen here. Styles uses good old-fashioned American dirt into the eyes of his adversary before using a low blow. Shots are used, and Styles drops Taker into a grave, and Gallows and Anderson help to attempt to subdue the Undertaker. Taker walks towards Gallows and Anderson. Druids surround them and quickly fight off Anderson and Gallows. Then we see a beatdown, including the use of a shovel. Styles recovers, uses a headstone to break over Taker's back. The camera work here is atrocious. The lighting is abysmal. Some people love this. Some people hate it. I fall in the hate it camp. And let's see. Styles attempts to break Taker's fingers, and Styles is then thrown through a wall. Styles taunts Taker and flips him off and rocks him with another series of punches. Styles breaks the shovel over Taker's back. Taker's taken a whole bunch of punishment by this point. He looks superhuman. Styles grabs a forklift, which happens to be hanging around in this graveyard they're using. Wonder where that comes from. Bruce Pritchard would probably tell us forklifts are us, would be its permanent home, permanent residence. Anyway, so we go where Taker appears behind AJ somehow and then beats down Styles for the next several minutes. Climbs up a ladder, gets on top of a building. Taker then raises his arm and flames appear, so we've now stepped into supernatural territory. Good for us. Taker beats down all 3 members of the original crew, and then the building becomes a launching pad for Gallows, who is thrown off the building and Anderson is tombstone for his trouble of trying to help his former New Japan Pro Wrestling cohort. Styles is fighting back, but a chokeslam off the top of the building is the result of that trouble. Music that is straight out of a C-level horror film then plays. Taker approaches a fallen AJ Styles, asked if he remembers his wife's name. AJ begs off for a good bit. Taker picks up Styles, carries him to the grave, and attempts to put him in the grave. He admits that Styles is tougher than he thought. Styles is begging off like he is trying to save his own life. Taker then sends him into the grave, grabs the forklifts, and buries Styles in the grave to win the match. Taker then walks past the grave to reveal a personalized headstone. Taker puts his bandana on, sits on his motorcycle, and rides off into the flames in a B-level movie scene. As I said, this is by far the worst ending to WrestleMania ever. I would put this behind the LT Bam Bam match from 11. I would put this behind, certainly, the WrestleMania 9 match with Hogan beating Yoko. If you like this, we probably wouldn't be friends. I don't quite understand the draw. As far as WrestleManias go, it's sad because I'd say about half the card is worthy and half the card could fill a local VFW hall. But it is what it is. This is WrestleMania in 2020. As for what's going to go on here with Pro Wrestling Logic, I'm getting some T-shirt logos made, getting a logo made for the front page of the YouTube site. We're going to be doing the Saturday Night's Main Event series. All 35, 36 events of those will have an audio component if you want to go back and look at that. We will be doing weekly television. I'm thinking of doing some chat-alongs or Q&As if you want to do that with my experience having been in the business. Whatever you'd like, get in touch with us. Again, like, subscribe, join the channel, and I remind you this is Scott Golden. Keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.